Hello, everybody. Co-owner Om Gandhi here. Welcome one, welcome all to the audio edition of the Fireside Chats. For more stories like this, go to our website at runtrymag.com. That's runtrymag.com. You can also find us on Instagram at runtrymag, and you can also find us on Facebook at runtrybike. And now, on to the show.
One, two, three, four.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, Izzy. Really appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us and bring to our audience insights of not only a 100-mile race finisher, but a 240-mile race finisher. Congratulations on your finish earlier this year at Moab 240. Awesome, awesome stuff.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to you to start asking these questions. I'll play follow-up reporter. Yes! You got a dog?
We love running buddies. So
Is that, can you hear my dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's outside. Like, that's Ohm's favorite sidekick. That's Romanov
Oh,
trying to
that's
say
my
hi to
spirit
you.
animal.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
your spirit animal.
totally my spirit animal. So tell us how you got started in endurance sports. I want to go back to the beginning. Again,
How
you've,
it all
you know,
began.
yeah, like how like how you told me this whole thing, probably muttering it to me, but I probably don't remember any of it because we were sleep deprived. So tell me again,
Oh,
like
that
we're
was
how'd
fun.
you again?
Yeah,
How'd you get started?
sure. So I grew up doing team sports, basketball and competitive swimming, like starting around 5 years old. And then I got into extreme sports. You know, growing up in San Diego, it was all about the surf, skate, snow. Actually worked in the skateboarding industry for a while there. And then after college, or after high school, while I was in college, I actually got in a snowboarding accident and I broke my back snowboarding. So luckily, you know, I didn't need surgery or anything. I was just in a body brace for like a good 6 months. So that was just a wake up call to me, like, wow, I could have been paralyzed, like looking at the x-rays, just super thankful that it wasn't worse and that I was still able to move. So my dad was a runner, and we started when I was able to start swimming, and then I started getting into running again, but just running, no basketball in my hand. And I started with, you know, the typical road races, and, you know, it was okay. Just you did the 5Ks. I did one marathon. It was awful, you know. And then I was in a boot camp, and they took us out to the trails because the boot camp class was outside at a park. And I was like, whoa, what are these shoes that are people wearing? And like, what are these backpacks they're wearing? Like, people wear backpacks while they run. So, you know, we've all been there our first time, right? So I fell in love with trail running, and it didn't hurt as much as running that stupid road marathon. Like, no offense to road runners, I'm actually doing one next month, but you get it. So yeah, just during that time, when I first got in trail running, I actually met Nicodemus Holland, and I didn't know who he was, how big of a name he was. He was just like one of the boot camp instructors. He's like, hey, I want to start coaching. Will you be like one of my first clients? I was like, sure. Like, he was just my friend. And for those that follow his wife Jade, Jade had just started trail running too, and so the three of us like would run together, and this is when them first two just met. So I've been there since the beginning, but anyway, so great people. Nick totally got me into trail running, introduced me to ultra running, took me to all the rad spots in San Diego. I pretty much learned everything from him. Like, I tell him this is all his fault now that I do the things I do, and I signed up for my first ultra with him coaching me and knew no one. I had like 3 friends that were into ultras. Lake Hodges 50K, which for San Diego people, it's a big local race. And that's when I realized that there weren't any really running trail groups there. There was surf back then, but they always trained out in the mountains, which is awesome. But for most of us, we can't drive out there every weekend. So that's when I started Ultrabuds, a local running group, and we train at Lake Hodges in Escondido. And it's been 8 years now that I've been running that running group. Meet every Saturday at 6:30 a.m. if anyone wants to go. Super fun group. And now there's like 10 different trail groups in San Diego. It's awesome. But back then there wasn't. So Ultrabuzz was a way for me to run with other people. It was right after with the Chelsea murder, the girl who was murdered at Lake Hodges. So I was afraid to run by myself back then. Now I'll run in the mountains all by myself at 2 or 3 a.m. with the mountain lions and everything and not care. But back then it was a little scary. So that's how Ultrabuds started. And that's how I got into ultra running. So yeah.
So how living in San Diego, you were a swimmer.
Yeah.
You became a runner.
Yeah.
You skipped the bike and the whole San Diego triathlon.
Oh yeah, I'm not allowed to ride a bike. Yeah, I'll get hit by a car for sure. Totally for sure. I finally got a mountain bike this summer. My husband and I got mountain bikes, and I've ridden it twice because I'm afraid I'm gonna I was afraid I was gonna hurt myself from Moab. So I can start riding it now. But yeah, I totally would get hit by a car.
I'm with you on the being frightened of getting hurt on a mountain bike. I bought my first one this summer. I've been doing endurance sports for 15 years, and I finally bought a mountain bike. And I think it was on my second ride on the trails, I wound up in a cactus, and I'm picking all the little thorns out. So that bike's been in the garage for a while now.
Ooh.
It's dangerous.
So tell us about you raced Coldwater earlier this year, January, and then you raced Moab this summer.
Yeah.
So give the audience an idea, if you don't mind, how you decided these two races this year at this time. Like, why a 100 and a 240 in the same year as opposed to just a single 100 one year and a 240 another year?
So I never really had the time to train for super long distance. I thought it took a lot of time out of my schedule just to train for 100K. And so Jeff Browning's my coach. For those that know Jeff, he's amazing. And we were friends before he became my coach, and I kind of told him, like, joking around, like, oh, if I ever decide to do 100-mile, I'll call you to coach me, but it's never going to happen. Like, all my friends know it was never going to happen. But then people started doing 200s. I'm like, dang it, now you got to do a 200. Like, so I actually was thinking, like, okay, like, you got these 200 races, you got some of the guys from San Diego going out to do them. Where are all the ladies at? There were a couple ladies who went and did Cocodona, but no one from San Diego is really doing it. So those kind of thoughts challenged me, like, why doesn't a lady try, So I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do Moab. But before that, I should probably do a 100-miler. So that's when I called Jeff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a 100-miler. Like, let's start coaching. So I really picked Coldwater because of the time frame. It just fit into my schedule in January. And I cut back my work hours. I own my own business and I'm a professor. So I'm like, I can easily cut back hours, not take on additional projects or clients or teach less classes. So that's what I did, because it really does take a lot of time if you want to train right. I also believe in strength training for races. So I spend a lot of time in the gym. I've been lifting weights since I was 14, a freshman in high school, being a basketball player. So that comes to me, and with lifting weights comes Spartan races. So that's another thing I do every now and then. I throw in a Spartan race just to mix things up. So that's why I decided on Coldwater. Trained for that. There was a huge San Diego crew of us that went out there. It was a huge party. We took over that race. And for those that are familiar with the Coldwater, it's like a figure 8, right? So it's a little confusing when you're sleep deprived in the middle of the night. And I had pacers, but it was in the middle of the night. We were tired. It was dark. We went to change my headlamp battery, and we went the wrong way after that. We got like disoriented, And lesson learned, I've heard it before. Like, I have the app and everything, just didn't look. And we're like, oh yeah, no big deal. It's this way, right? Didn't think anything of it. We end up at the aid station that we had just come from. I'm like, no. And it wasn't that I had to run like 4 extra miles, but there was a time cutoff because they have time cutoffs throughout. So unfortunately, I'm hauling ass trying to get the time cutoff. I don't meet the time cutoff. And I told the race director, I'm like, hey, I know I'm going to get a DNF like on paper, but can I go back out and finish the race? Because I feel great. Like, he had already known what happened with the aid station crew. And he's like, yeah, actually, I'll let you go finish the race because you'll be finished by the time the race is finished. So I went out, I finished the race within the finish time cutoff. And so the race director did give me a buckle for that. But on paper and on Ultra Sign Up, it shows a DNF, which is fine. I'm not like an elite pro runner. I ran the race for me. And the coolest part was that my coach told me that I have the mental for Moab. Like, that was what he told me after that race. I'm like, okay, cool. So Moab, last year I went and volunteered for a week out there because I like to be prepared for everything. I actually do read what's in the race descriptions, unlike some other people. So I knew exactly what I was in for. And, I wanted to just make sure, could I do this? And I worked the finish line. I didn't work an aid station. I worked the finish line for a week. And I pretty much met and saw every single person that crossed the finish line, from the first person, Mike McKnight, to the last person who had 3 minutes to spare. It was something crazy like that. And I talked to these people and I'm like, I could do this. If I try really hard, these people can do it. I can do it. You can be any age, any gender, and any size. Really, you can finish this race. I love backpacking. I love hiking for hours. So my coach, Jeff, was there, and he was pacing Mike McKnight, the first finisher. And I just straight told him, hey, Jeff, you got 365 days to get me ready for this race. Don't fuck this up. So that's what it was. So I dedicated all this year training for Moab. I did exactly what he told me to do. He actually raced it as well. It was his first 200 as well. I think he finished 2 days before me, but that's cool. He set the new course record. That was rad. And then he came back to the finish line and watched me finish. And that's how Moab happened. And I got to run a lot of miles with home. Boring miles. I think we did a marathon together on the flattest of flat. Luckily, there was a full moon because there was nothing else to look at during that section.
We had
we were tired
on the course. It was I'd like to describe it. It was nothing. The way Candace, the race director, describes it. She says, "There's nothing out there, so you're gonna find yourself out there." And it was and for me, it was oh, what the heck, She was 15 minutes behind me. I'm I don't want to do this section by myself. It's gonna be so boring. And yeah, I mean, I just know it was a good time. I just can't remember half the stuff we talked about, which is why we're doing the fireside chat.
I know we called Hector. We had reception during that time, so we were who can we call? Let's call Hector. He'll give us
we definitely called Hector. I think we called 3 or 4 different people collectively because there was reception out there. I called Jason actually.
Oh, I got a phone call.
Yeah. I'm bored.
And what was that, day 2 of the race or something? It had to be, because I remember when we left that aid station, that was actually when Jeff finished.
Oh.
Jason texted me, he's oh, Jeff Browning just broke the course record or something, or he got close or something. I think it was a hot topic, another topic.
Another topic.
Yeah.
So.
The year I raced Western States, I was at, what's the name of that section? The 100K mark, mile 62, whatever that area is. And they're oh, Walmsley's already done. And I'm 40 miles to go. What?
It was at Coldwater when Annie Hughes lapped me because it's loops.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I saw Annie. That was ridiculous. Because funny fact, all 3 of us were actually at Coldwater. Jason was out there. I was pacing Emmanuel. Shout out to Emmanuel because Izzy connected us.
Oh yeah.
So I was out there pacing him at night and had no idea that he fractured his foot. Whole nother story.
Yep. A broken foot.
I wasn't about to repeat Coldwater again for 100 miles. I did the 20 miler this year.
Smart.
For those who don't understand why I laughed so hard when Izzy mentioned reading the athlete guide, I'm the one who doesn't read the athlete guide. And when I did Coldwater about a decade ago, I didn't realize it wasn't a Western States qualifier. So then I had to go find a Western States qualifier after finishing Coldwater. And I raced another 100 miler 2 weeks later. So I guess I was preparing for Cocodona 10 years ago and finally got around to preparing for it when it finally actually became a thing, right? You that are just joining us, we are talking to Izzy Janovick, and we're discussing her year, this year, 2022, of Coldwater and Moab and what's happening there and other things that are going on. If you have questions for her, please either type them into the comment section or hit the little question mark on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and type that question, and we'll make sure we'll get to them. One of the things, I know you said you focused on Moab for the whole year, but you were still training for a 100-miler prior to that, right? So
Yeah.
what was the difference in training for you between a 100-mile event and a 240-mile event?
A lot more of time on my feet. So just hiking.
Okay.
Apparently it uses like different muscles, I guess, hiking versus running. So a lot of hiking, being out there for longer hours and overnight. I would go and sweep courses, volunteer and sweep courses, just, to get training in for me. Because not many people wanted to go do 8-hour runs with me, not many people. There's a couple of people that I did some long runs with, but yeah, the longer stuff. Like I happened to be in Idaho during the time of I Am Tough. My brother has a ranch in Idaho, and so I volunteer. I emailed the race director. I'm like, hey, can I volunteer to sweep the course from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.? And he's like, why would you want to do that? He's like, yes, absolutely, because no one volunteers for that. And so I'm like, oh, I'm training for Moab. It'd be like perfect for me just to like go out there by myself during that time in the mountains and just, mentally learn and train for that type of thing. So I'm really not scared of any of that stuff now. And after Moab, I feel like I can take a nap anywhere at any time. I can just lay down on the ground. I'm not afraid of a lot of things. Like I'm still afraid of people being kidnapped, but animals and stuff I'm not afraid of.
Not the Moab cows.
Being able to nap at anywhere at any time is a wonderful talent to have. We might have.
I don't have.
We might need a photo contest for the best dirt napping pictures out there.
100%.
Oh, I like it. Yes. And feet. I'll win on the feet pictures.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that's a whole nother topic there. Like, if you've seen, like, her feet were messed up after the race. They were messed up. They were actually in one of the magazines or something that you were in, right? An article or something?
Yeah. And they chose that picture to print in the magazine. I'm like, okay.
So one question I had about the difference between 100 and the 200, just kind of for the insight for the viewers is like, what was it like doing one night at Coldwater and then transitioning over to doing a race at Moab where you're doing multiple days and nights?
Oh my goodness, huge difference, because for a 100-miler, at least for me, I stayed up the entire time. I took caffeine pills and powered through it, and I was fine. Also, the food is different. 100-milers, I ate a lot smaller meals, more like bars and spring gels and spring drinks. But at the 240, your meals are huge. So that was another thing I had to practice on my training. I'm like, okay, what like big meals can my stomach tolerate? And I don't eat meat, so bacon's not a thing for me, but I can eat eggs like no problem. So that was good. That's how I got my protein. And I stayed away from dairy just in case, dairy's fine for me for a 100-mile, but a 240. So I was just really picky on what I ate. Tortillas. I know he scared me as I was trying a veggie burger. And it's the veggie burgers from like Costco. They're not like the good quality ones. And I'm slamming this thing down and he's like, that's what made me sick. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I guess we're going to find out in like 3 hours if it makes me sick or not. So luckily it didn't. But
you ended up being okay. I'm pretty sure I just had a bad batch going up Shea Mountain.
Yeah. I'm like, oh no. So like learning those foods was interesting. And I learned too that I couldn't take that many spring gels because of the amount of fiber in them, because they're real food and they have so much fruit. So I could only do like a certain amount a day. And then I'd switch to a big variety of bars that I tested out ahead of time, because you can't just stick to one bar. You need a variety or you're going to get sick. Just sick of eating it. And Pop-Tarts, of course, Pop-Tarts are key. And a lot of egg burritos. So, and then the other thing, training with a heavy pack. I was warned that the first 2 days could be very hot, and there's always the possibility of not having water at water stations. And I need to drink a lot of water. That's just me. So I trained to be able to carry 4 liters of water, which is heavy. It's heavy. So I trained all summer with that. And I tried to go out the hottest places because also the desert, the first 2 days, sometimes it could be in the hundreds. So I actually went out to Moab for 3 days and trained on the course. So I got to experience it a little bit. And sure enough, one of the water stations did not have water, but guess who had a full pack? Me. So that saved me. Because you read the descriptions.
Oof, and that was right before like a 28-mile stretch, by the way, Jason. It was like
Yeah.
mile 32 or something. It was like a 20, basically a marathon stretch. And they had like water. Did they have water? Because they had a water only aid station like 4 miles afterwards. And I
Yeah.
think that one was running dry too. But
Yeah.
it's like 4 miles and then you go 20 miles without water and it's like fully exposed.
Yeah. So even I got slightly dehydrated. I was conserving my water because I was afraid I was going to run out. And so I was sucking on like chews to keep my mouth moist. And I had to walk a lot because I knew if I ran, I was going to drink more water. And I can even feel my muscles getting depleted. So, but I made it through. I didn't have issues like some of the other people had some serious issues, and a lot of people had to drop like right after that stop, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You find that you would be taking more risks or willing to take more risks, I should say, at the 100-mile distance versus the 240-mile distance, a little bit more conservative at 240?
Oh, yeah. Because another thing is some of those aid stations, they're like, I mean, I only saw my crew once a day, 24
Right.
hours. And those aid stations are far. And another thing that saved me was I actually paced my friend at Tahoe 200. So I kind of got a feel of what foods were at the aid station, how long the stretches were. And that's another reason why I trained to carry more water, just in case. With the Moab course, there's not any rivers or lakes where you can filter water. Whereas my training, I would try to train in the heat next to some sort of water source so that I could filter my water. And I know the other 200s, Bigfoot and Tahoe, you do have the ability to filter your water, so it's not as serious, but Moab you can. So
Yeah, at Cocodona, you end up going through the Agua Fria River, but that's, I mean, way later in the race. So the whole time you're running, there's no water around you either. So you got to be prepared to carry as much as you can too.
yeah.
So out of all the things that you ate over the course of that time out at Moab, what one sticks out to you like, yeah, that was such a good meal. Like that food was fantastic.
Oh, I had a lot of egg potato burritos, egg potato and tortilla. And they give you like huge tortillas. So you know it was a lot of calories, which is what you needed.
Yeah. So for me, when I pulled into Prescott at Cocodona, I had my crew get me 2 Impossible Whoppers from Burger King. And those were the most glorious things ever. Outside of the vegan hot dogs at the top of Mingus.
Ooh.
Oh, so glorious. And I had my crew, I was like, you got to assemble the hot dog this way. Like, you've been out there for days, you're delirious. I'm like, mustard, vegan hot dog, mustard, and then potato chips on top. Like,
And
it
then
has
dirt.
to be, yeah. And then dirt, some spit probably. But those 2 hot dogs were so good. Like, they will always, like, the top 10 meals I've ever eaten, no matter where I eat for the rest of my life. Excuse me.
What advice would you one of the things that you mentioned was that you wanted to see more females doing these longer distances. I think the number that I got from the DT crew was like 20% female field this year. What advice would you give to females who are trying to get into the 100-mile distance and above and beyond?
I would say just you never know what you're capable of until you try. Like I didn't know if I could finish, but I wanted to at least try and give it my all. That's the same way I feel with the FKTs. Like I learned this year, there's actually a movement called FKT Women where they're trying to encourage more females to try the FKTs. If you look on the FKT website, there's so many FKTs where there's not even a woman name up there because no one's even tried it. So I actually set one this summer, again, while visiting my brother in Boise on the Boise Greenbelt. And I'm like, why has no woman done this? Like, I'm not even a road runner. And so it happened to fit into my plan, that distance. I wasn't even setting to go like super fast. I'm like, well, it's in my running plan. I'll just haul ass and I'll at least start it, So I did it. And then apparently while I was racing Moab, a girl came out and beat my time. I was like, yay, finally someone's out there trying shit, Yeah. So that's another thing. And the whole hard rock thing, That's gonna be. I've never had like a dream race that I've wanted to do, but after this year and learning more about Hard Rock, the amount of women who get into that race, like that's my dream race now. That's my goal. I'm saying it out loud, putting it out there. I know it's probably gonna take me 8 years to get in. I'll be an old lady by then, but that's my dream race. So I'm going to be doing a qualifier 100 next year. Yeah, next year. Choosing Bear 100. Again, I'm gonna have. Yeah. We're going to see a lot in each other next year.
Yeah, we are. And it's amazing that more females aren't doing the longer distances, because when they do, it's shown that they're absolutely dominating the field. Like you got Annie Hughes, like Courtney Dowalter in the inaugural year of Moab, beating everyone by 10 hours. So definitely should have. I've met so many like strong, amazing females doing these races, and I think more of them should just go out and try it, like you said.
Yeah, and everyone's scared to even apply for Hard Rock, and I'm not a fast runner. I'm not elite. If I get in, yeah, I'm gonna have to work my ass off for like a year at least, definitely. But I'm willing to put in the work if I get in. So yeah, I'm doing Bear 100 next year for a qualifier, and hopefully I can go out there and volunteer or pace or crew. So anyone listening, if they're doing Hard Rock and they need a pacer, I'm a professional at pacing, so.
I can't imagine doing Hard Rock without a pace or a crew. Like I paced and crewed at Uray, and I can't even begin to imagine doing that on your own. Like, I mean, it's just hard, period. Like, just hard.
Yeah, and the altitude, it's just like the hardest of hard. That's another reason why I want to do it. Try it. I want to try, see what I can do.
Have you talked to Jeff, your coach, about training?
Yes.
And what's going to be different about that compared to Coldwater? Because now you have experience at the 100-mile distance and the 240-mile distance. And obviously Bear's a different race altogether. But what have you talked about in terms of changing with regards to your training for this upcoming 100?
We haven't gotten that far yet. But I think he's won it twice. And he coaches clients all the time for that race. So I'm in total good hands. I'm just going to do what it tells me to do, pretty much. And I'll be able to go out there and train on the course at least once this year. So, and then just go to the mountains a lot. And yeah, so I don't know specifically yet. We haven't chatted those details yet.
One of the things you mentioned earlier in the conversation was strength training. Can you enlighten those folks that are just joining us today as to why it's important, and not necessarily even just for 100 miles or 200-mile races, but just in general as a runner?
Yeah, strength training is super important. People say, oh, running's bad for your knees. It's the joints and the muscles around your knees that are supporting it that need to be worked on, And I've been lifting weights since I was 14, since I was a freshman in high school, being on the basketball team. And I hate lifting weights. I think it's so boring. My friends that are weightlifters, they like always make fun of me because of how little bit I lift, because I'm not there to lift heavy. I'm there to strengthen and condition and to keep my body injury free, and to keep the longevity of my body, because I still want to be doing this when I'm 70 years old, just like my buddy George Greco. George, 71, 72 now. I think he turns 72 next month. He's still out there running ultras. So yeah, I want to do all that, and I highly believe in rest days too. Like there's these crazy people out there who just run hard every single day, and you need to have your body rest. And easy days are made to be easy, and hard days are made to be hard.
Totally agree. I coach athletes at triathlon and ultra running. And in my first conversation with them, I tell them I am a maximum recovery coach, like literally days off. One of my athletes this past summer raced Leadville. And during his training, I was like, you've had a long weekend. On Monday, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the pool, and you're going to go swim. And if you don't feel like swimming, fill your water bottle with a beer and just walk up and down the pool lane. Like just totally relax.
I like that.
Yeah, right? And recover, because we had scheduled, I think, 7 or 8 hours, and he's in Denver. So he's running up and down the mountains at elevation, and you need that maximum recovery. And I'm like, day off, and I literally mean it. And he's text message. He's like, this might be the greatest training plan ever. So, maximize recovery day. So thank you for saying that as a coach and as an athlete. I appreciate another athlete making that mention.
And if
Um,
you can fit it in, like luckily I own my own business, so I can fit this in on my double workout days or long run days. I take naps.
Yeah,
I also don't have children, so that helps too.
naps are
so,
key.
oh, naps are so important, man. Like I have to try to get at least a couple of them during the week whenever I can. Um, just amazing.
So
Um,
real quick, so for everybody who's joining us, we are talking with Izzy Janovick, who is an ultra runner, is a small business owner, is a college professor, all around badass trail runner, has raced the Coldwater 100 and Moab 240 this year and is headed to Bear 100 next year. If you've got questions for her about her training, about her napping for that matter, about her nutrition, put it in the comments or tap the little question mark on the bottom right hand side and we'll make sure we ask those questions. You had in our green room you mentioned Meniere's disease, so do you want to follow up on that question?
yeah. So Meniere's disease. I kind of wanted to know, like, maybe just explain to the viewers what it is, kind of the symptoms you get from it, and how it shapes your mindset in endurance running.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of this until I got it. So Meniere's disease is an issue with the inner eardrum, the fluid, the inner eardrum. My body doesn't release it properly, so it holds it in, and then it bursts, and all that fluid goes in all other areas of the ear that it shouldn't, and that causes nausea, dizziness, and vertigo. So I've had vertigo spells where it's knocked me on my butt for like 4 days. There's nothing you can do about it. The feeling you get is almost like you're blacked out drunk, but you can't sober up. It's like that kind of spinning where you just want to throw up and you can't do anything. It's awful. And I don't even have a severe case of it. There's a lot of people out there who have it so bad that they can't work, they can't drive, they're completely disabled because of it. I have 40% hearing loss in my left ear, and I've been able to control it. I was diagnosed, I want to say 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and I've been able to control it with diet, exercise, and medication. So I take one pill every night before I go to bed, and the medication they give me is actually the same medication for altitude sickness, so it actually works out pretty well for me. The side effects are dry mouth and extreme thirst. So that's another reason why I drink a lot more water compared to everyone else. And one of the side effects I get a lot is I'm just more fatigued. So another reason why I take naps. Um, but I'm still able to train for these races. It might take me a little longer to recover. I might be a little slower, but that's it. I'm still able to fit it in and do it. The time that I did have that vertigo spell where I was in bed for 4 days, I couldn't work out for a month. Every time I'd try to like run or walk, I would get dizzy. So I just, didn't really work out for a month. I just did like yoga, and just walked, because as soon as I started running, I would feel like this. So, it's definitely difficult. I have to control my sodium. Sodium is a huge factor for Meniere's disease. I'm only supposed to have 1,500 milligrams a day unless I'm sweating a lot, which luckily I'm a runner, so I do sweat a lot. For anyone that's ever actually measured their food and tracked their food, 1,500 milligrams is like half a burrito. It's like nothing. It's like 2 pieces of pizza. Sodium is in everything, including desserts, baked goods, anything processed. So I learned a lot about food again when I had to be on a low sodium diet. I don't really eat out much. I don't eat other people's food because they don't even realize what ingredients they're putting in. And it's a pain in the butt to track and measure your food. It really is. But at the same time, that's kind of good for my training, not to eat all that junk. So it kind of works out. I take breaks sometimes from all the tracking and measuring. Alcohol and caffeine are triggers as well, so I take a lot of long breaks on that. I drink half calf coffee. For Moab, I didn't drink alcohol for I think it was 12 weeks before the race, just to make sure I didn't have any problems. I wear a medical bracelet, doctors on call. I had to have a talk with the race and let them know my medical issue just in case there was an issue. I had emergency medicine because even if you press the SOS at Moab, they told you it could take like 6 to 8 hours for them to grab you. And then the time from there to get to a hospital. So my doctor had given me emergency medicine. My coach and husband didn't really tell me how scared they were for me until after the race. They're like, man, we're just so thankful you didn't have any issues. I've never had an issue during a race, but I did have a 50 miler where I got super sick after the race. As soon as I got in a car and there was movement, it triggered the vertigo. And luckily, my friend Vera, the warden, she's a very famous person, Vera Stepina, she was driving me home anyway, and I just threw up in her car the entire car ride home. She had bags, but I felt so bad. But she's like, hey, don't worry about it. I have 3 kids. I'm used to one of them throwing up in my car sometimes. So that worked out. But I mean, you know, unless people have seen how sick you can really get, they don't think how serious it is. Like my husband at first, he's like, what are you doing? Like, you're fine. But then when he saw me actually have a vertigo attack, he's like, oh, this is not good. Like, this is crazy. So anyone who has Meniere's disease, I've only met like 4 or 5 people who've had it.
That's amazing. I mean, so when you're out there, like I know Cliff Shot has gels that have caffeine in them. And if that's a trigger for you, so are you even paying attention to that during the race? Like,
Oh, yeah.
what you using or not or can't use?
Yes. So I actually like, that's another good thing about like the spring drinks, and Tailwind has a good one too that are very low sodium. So I can control the sodium better with my salt pills, because you know the exact milligram in your salt pills. And then I kind of know now what foods have certain amounts of sodium. So I know if I'm going to aid station and I'm eating a bunch of pickles, then I know I'm pretty good. I don't need a salt pill for like an hour.
Right.
During the summer, my coach had me track my sodium intake and my water intake to sodium water ratio. That's really hard. If you guys have ever tracked your sodium, like how much you're eating and drinking while your training runs, like it's work to do all that. I would keep all my wrappers of all the food I ate, and I would just write it all down in my little app. So that was another thing that helped, knowing like, okay, I felt great this day. I didn't feel good. Like, but I'm actually going to do like a real science sodium test in January. There's a guy who does it in Austin, an ultrarunner. He ran Moab too. So I'm going to do a real sodium test, and I'm doing some more testing, ear testing with my ENT in January as well. It's called a balance test, and they do all these things to you to try to make you dizzy on purpose so that they see what the triggers are. So I'm actually having my dad drive me there and drive me home in case I'm throwing up on the whole car ride home. But at least I'll get the data and the answers to help me be more successful in these races.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things you answered earlier was that Hard Rock is your, number one goal race to try to get into. And you're racing Bear this year to get into that. And But what other races are you doing this year as focus to build to Bear?
Oh, so my other races are kind of more fun, but I'm doing, so have you guys heard of the Trans Rockies run?
Have we? Ask that guy.
Yeah.
I'll see him there too. So I'll be doing, that race director has a new race. It's called Moab Run the Rocks. It's in March. Sorry guys, it's sold out. And it's a 3-day stage race in Moab because, we all love Moab. But you just run during the day and then you like hang out at night. So I'm like, this is perfect. We can like sleep, we can eat, we can have a shower. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. So I'm doing that stage race in March. I always do Broken Arrow every June, just the 26K because that's plenty for me. And then I have the Trans Rockies run, which will be a whole week of being at altitude elevation in the mountains. So that'll be really good training. That's all I kind of really have on my schedule right now, but I'm sure other things will pop up, like, go run a 50K for fun or something, Pacing. If anyone's doing Hard Rock and needs a pacer, I'm going to throw that out there again.
We'll make sure we post it.
Yeah.
So Izzy, thank you so much for joining us. Let the audience, we're going to jump into some quick Q&A question or rapid fire questions here in a second, but where can the audience follow you besides here on Instagram?
Instagram's the best way to follow me. I do social media marketing for a living, so I'm on it at all times. I know some people are like, do you work? I'm like, I'm working right now. I'm on the clock. Like, it's my job to be on social media. So that's the best way to find me. I am on Facebook, but I'm not that active on Facebook. Mostly just in my groups for Ultrabuds, but Instagram's the best way.
Yeah, by the way, repeat where Ultrabuds meets and day and time. I wrote it down, but
Yeah, Ultrabuds meets every Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. at Lake Hodges, Escondido. It's an out and back, all levels welcome. You won't get lost on the trail. That's why I chose that location. So people, I would say the average is 8 miles that people run, but some people just run for an hour, go to the gym, or they're done. We have a walking group, and my mom, she's very popular in San Diego, Mama V. She is the walk leader. So there's no excuses. If my 70-year-old mom, 71, shoot, gosh, I don't know the ages now, is out there walking every Saturday morning, you can get off your butt and get out there too. And then we also always have people doing 20 miles out there.
awesome. So make sure you guys get out there to Lake Hodges and join the Ultrabuds group.
Yeah.
So
and don't
now-
complain to me about the time, people, because races start that early, okay?
Or earlier.
Or earlier. And some of us who were running 20 miles that day got things to do, so we start early.
Yeah.
Go to bed earlier.
Keep your urban running adventures going all winter long with high-performance traction designed specifically for icy roads. The Catula Nano Spikes footwear traction have a low-profile design that won't affect your stride while running. The 10 ultra-tough tungsten carbide spikes give you traction that you can trust. Don't let the ice and snow stop you from reaching your goals. For more information, visit catula.com.
So we're going to jump into some rapid fire questions here. So when you're out running those 20 miles starting at 6:30 a.m. and not later, are you listening to podcast, music, or nothing at all?
If I'm going to group run, we're talking the whole time. Otherwise, I am listening to audiobooks, mostly crime, being murdered and kidnapped, while I'm by myself running. While I was sweeping I Am Tough, out there all by myself, I'm listening to a murder book the whole time.
Do you have a favorite like true crime podcast or anything?
No, it's not even podcasts. It's mostly books, audiobooks.
Fine.
Yeah. Sally McRae is probably my favorite podcast right now. I love her. Big fan.
What's your favorite audiobook to listen to while you're sweeping out at I Am Tough at midnight?
I probably listen to a crime book a week. They're just like, James Patterson, like those kind of authors.
Very cool. So no music at all? Not for
music is usually for my fast races when I want to go fast, and I'm a punk rock girl, so like Rancid, Lagwagon, Bad Religion, all that stuff.
Picked up on the genre real quick because that was my next question. So the most important question, if you get this right, we'll have you back on. If you get it wrong, it'll just take us longer to have you back on. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Yes! Oh my gosh. Didn't
It's
Owen and I talk about this for like probably 4 hours?
Terrible
While we were at Moab?
It was boring out there, Jason. We have to talk about
We kept doing Q&As to like rapid questions to each other.
And yeah, we were doing
about
rapid
pizza
fire
forever.
I would have recorded it, but it would have just been mumbling.
Yes, I'm probably going to have pineapple on pizza tonight. That's a great idea.
I won't be on here. That's all.
I love it.
So when it comes to Oreos, are you the OG, the thin, or the double stuff?
OG. And I've tried the flavored ones. Just don't mess with the Oreo.
Yes. So I teach marketing, and Howard Moskowitz taught about horizontal segmentation when it comes to flavors and stuff. Like he invented 37 flavors of ragu. And to this day, I despise Howard Moskowitz because we don't need 74 flavors of Oreos. The OG is all we need. It's perfect. Why screw with it? I don't understand. Peaks, are they a real candy or not?
I don't even know what that is. Is that the yellow thing? Is that the yellow thing that you get at Easter?
It's the marshmallow thing?
Yeah. It's like she belongs in the trash with candy corn.
Yes! I don't even have to ask the question. Earwax. Did you notice that they also created a bacon flavored candy corn?
I didn't know that.
That sounds awful.
Sounds terrible. Like why?
It's already bad enough.
Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just chocolate cake with red dye?
I don't know. I'm not a red velvet person either. Just give me plain chocolate. Why you gotta mess it up?
That's right. Yes. Pop-Tarts, favorite flavor?
Yes.
Cherry.
Okay, so that's a tough question because they come out with like flavors that are just temporary, you know? And right now there's 2 temporary flavors. One's Snickerdoodle and one's Eggo waffle. So those are my 2 go-tos right now. But if you want to talk about the ones that are always on the market, blueberry frosted. I don't know why people get Pop-Tarts that are not frosted. There's no point in that. Or someone, Melissa, who eats just the edges because she doesn't want the frosting. Like,
What?
why get an unfrosted Pop-Tart? That's dumb.
I think this was the real 4-hour conversation. I think we even talked about like if you do do you toast your Pop-Tarts or do you not toast them?
No, I don't. I'm usually eating them on a run or driving to a run or driving home from a run. Yeah. And I put my frozen broccoli in the microwave. Like my husband's always makes fun of me because I use the microwave so much. I don't like they have a microwave for a reason, for convenience. Like why do I need to like get out all the pots and pans and cook on the stove when I have my microwave?
Because you need the char. You need the like crispy char. The microwave just gets soggy. You might as
The
well
microwave, it's like steaming it.
No. You gotta crank up the pan, especially a cast iron pan, super hot. Drop it in there and let it get crisp edges. So then it has texture and flavor.
Yeah. I'm not even allowed to use the cast iron pans. I'm not allowed to use the fancy knives because my husband went to culinary school before we met. So he has like his knives and then he has the ones I'm allowed to use.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, cast iron you got to be careful with because those things get scalding hot. You can end up with the handle burn on your palm.
Mm-hmm. And they stick. Like, why use a cast iron when there's nonstick pans? Like, I hate cleaning a cast iron pan.
Oh, why would you clean it? You just recook all that extra oil and
After
flavor.
someone has made bacon in it, I'm not gonna just
That's true.
use it over again.
I understand that. No need.
I do bake my salmon. I eat salmon every day, pretty much. So I do use the oven. So I bake my salmon and I meal prep that.
Cedar plank, soaked cedar planks.
No, not that fancy. Just on a cookie sheet. Just on a cookie sheet, plain.
I love that runners can talk about food for hours on end. It's so, and we get on the trail and we're
Start
like,
a food side chat.
there.
Well, that's what you would talk about during a fireside, right? You'd be drinking your beer,
That's right.
eating your marshmallow, not Peeps.
Not Peeps, but speaking of marshmallows, how do you like them? Like lightly toasted or like charcoal briquette black?
Lightly toasted. Yeah.
Yeah, no good.
Yep.
It's got to be charcoal briquette black, so you peel that off. You have hot, steamy, ooey gooey.
And usually I don't even eat the marshmallow. I just eat the graham cracker and chocolate because, again, like I'm a lazy cook. I know how to cook. My mom taught me. I used to be really into cooking all the time when I was in high school and had more time. Now I just don't care.
So if you're a lazy cook, let's reframe it. It's your last meal. You know it's your last meal. What are you eating?
Can I have my husband make it for me?
Sure. Whatever you for you.
Veggie lasagna.
Veggie lasagna. But
Yeah.
so are you using like eggplant as the noodle or are you actually using noodles?
No, with real noodles, but eggplant, spinach usually is in there. Yeah. It'd be better if it was made by an Italian who made the sauce from scratch. Or the noodles from scratch. Yeah. Veggie lasagna is so good.
Then we'll have to go race the Tour de Gens and go find it out there.
That sounds great.
Right? Oh my goodness. I can't remember his name. Jason Coop talked about Tour de Gens a couple of years ago on his podcast. And he was like, and I got to the top of the mountain and they had pizza. And I was like, #1 race to do, Tour de Gens.
Love it.
And pineapple in Italy.
And what?
They won't have pineapple on the pizza in Italy.
Yeah, you're right. Because I actually studied abroad in Italy. I don't
Yeah.
think that, yeah, they don't think they had that there. I had a lot of eggplant pizza when I was there.
Sure. And it's the best pizza you ever had unless you
Oh,
were in.
just the guy from the street corner every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No pineapple. So why ruin it?
And it doesn't even come in a circle. They make them squared and cut
Yeah.
them squares. Yep.
Right. Again, so no pineapple. Why ruin it? Let it be perfect.
Jason's
Izzy,
pineapple meltdown.
I'm gonna be heading to New York in about a week from now, and I cannot wait. Like every day, a pie or two, no pineapple, just pizza galore. It's gonna be
And
glorious.
bagels.
Yes, the best bagels too. Do you know the secret to the best bagels in New York? Why they're the best?
The water.
Yeah, well, yes, but they boil them before they put them in the oven. So you boil a bagel and then you put it in the oven, and it keeps the internal soft and then the edges crusty.
Okay. Okay.
If you ever in New York City, Essa Bagel, I think it's on 43rd or 44th and 3rd, best bagel joint in the city, but for a long time if you go, because it's so good.
Love it.
Well, anyway, Izzy, thank you so much for joining us. We've kept you for nearly an hour. Really appreciate it. Good luck on your training leading up to Bear. I'm sure we'll be long before then as well, though.
Yep, definitely. Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Thanks everyone who tuned in.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.